The title of this video is The Coronavirus Conspiracy and the Upside of the COVID-19 Virus. There will be an upside, by the way. The coronavirus known as COVID-19, ground zero for that was, as we all know, Wuhan, China. So we all know that China was the epicenter, if you will, for this virus. It came from China, Wuhan, China. We don't know, but we will in a moment as we uncover some details, that China makes over 70% of the world's medications and pills for things like high blood pressure and other ailments. But did you know that they also create what are called bioweapons? The headline from the Washington Times, a United States large newspaper distribution, says this: virus hit Wuhan has 2 laboratories linked to Chinese biowarfare program. Did you know that? So it's not the opinion of this YouTuber, it's fact written in huge newspapers. Bioweapons, what are they? They're defined this way: microorganisms like viruses, bacteria, fungi, or fungi if you're from California, or other toxins that are produced and released deliberately to cause disease and death in humans, animals, or plants. Here's a fact that you didn't know. China's most advanced virus research laboratory, known as the Wuhan Institute of Virology, is located right there in Wuhan, China. The laboratory is the only declared site in China capable of working with deadly viruses. Did you know that? So let's find out what happened here and where we go from here. What we need to now discover is, did China intentionally create COVID-19 as a bioweapon? Nobody, including yours truly, will ever really know. China won't let American medical professions into their Wuhan laboratories. Sure, China thinks that America, meaning Donald Trump, would send in spies to detect if the COVID-19 deadly virus really did originate in that particular lab. I believe it did, but that's my opinion. Next, if China did weaponize this COVID-19 virus, why would they do it? They would have to have a reason. And why would it start in China and then branch out to the rest of the world? Well, I think I have found a few answers. And it's all about politics between Democrats in the House of Representatives and their Democrat media counterparts and the Trump administration. But China also has a particular axe to grind with President Donald Trump. So let's first go to some Trump remarks given at his rallies or to the media directly from one of his many media interviews that he's given on the front lawn or some lawn somewhere in the White House. On many occasions, President Trump has bragged that the stock market has hit multiple records. And that's an encouragement to those in particular who are either investors or who have 401k type programs or retirement plans at work. The military also has investments in the stock market as well. But here's the rub. And here's the rub concerning China's president for life, Xi Jinping. As part of, he's shown here with me, as part of his campaign promise to bring a fairer trade deal with China, President Trump put a 25% tariff on Chinese goods back in 2018, June 15th. You can look it up. I already do my homework. President Trump in September of 2018, 2 years ago almost, issued strong remarks about China and their trade policies towards the U.S. I'm quoting now. Washington delivered a sharp escalation in the trade conflict in September with another set of tariffs, this time on Chinese goods worth $200 billion. Trump said those taxes will take effect from 24 September, starting at 10% and increasing to 25% from the start of next year unless the two countries agree on a deal. Mr. Trump has warned even more, and I'm quoting him, even more could be on the way. Now, the U.S. president said if China retaliates, this is in the newspaper, then Washington, him, would impose fresh tariffs on $267 billion worth of Chinese products, which eventually he threatened to make good, and it worked. Something was said to get under Xi Jinping's skin, though, just 3 short months before the first case of the deadly COVID-19 coronavirus was announced. That was announced, it happened on November 17th, 2019. But on September 10th, 2019, an article written by none other than Democrat from California, Adam Schiff, said in a written opinion or editorial in the Washington Post, he said this: if relations decline further, the Chinese government could look for pressure points where it can wield outsized leverage or force a change of U.S. policy. That's Schiff's idea. Pharmaceutical ingredients could be such a vulnerability, said Schiff. By cutting back their supply or manipulating prices, China could cause pharmaceutical costs to surge, or worse, Schiff said, we could experience shortages. He was hoping. And now, in 3 short months from his piece, China develops a concentrated virus known as COVID-19. 3 months. Promulgated by Adam Schiff's opinion, in my opinion. 2 short days later, on September the 12th, 2019, NBC, a cohort of Schiff, plastered this headline in their media outlets: U.S. officials worried about Chinese control of American drug supply. Basically, they say, we've outsourced our entire industry to China. So said retired Brigadier General John Adams. That's what he told NBC News. That is a strategic vulnerability, so said the general. Now, China pays very close attention to the U.S. media headlines concerning China, of course. So in just a 2-day period, Adam Schiff, House Intelligence Committee chair, and his media partners or cohorts at NBC and elsewhere, Democrats, told the Chinese leader, hey, ever thought about getting back at Trump? You could do it in several ways: shut off the drug supply or look for other pressure points to force a change of U.S. policy concerning the Trump administration's trade deal that you and China will eventually lose at some point. Now, on January 15th, 2020, this year, the infamous New York Times wrote this headline: Washington, President Trump signed an initial trade deal with China on Wednesday, bringing the first chapter of a protracted, and get this, and economically damaging fight with one of the world's largest economies to a close. China, you just got screwed by Trump, is what the New York Times was promoting here. The first UN-reported COVID-19 case out of Wuhan, China, was back on November 17th, as I said, 2019. But China's chief medical spokesman said this, but not until December 27th of 2019, right after Christmas in the U.S. Zhang Jingzhan, or whatever his name is, a doctor from Hubei Province Hospital of Integrated Chinese and Western Medicine, told China's health authorities that the disease was caused by a new coronavirus. That already happened. By that date, more than 180 people reportedly, could have been much higher, had been infected, though, the headline goes on, doctors might not have been aware of all of them at the time, which is why I suspect there were multiple hundreds, more than 180. Anyway, so did all of this lead China to unleash a virus that would help Democrats win the White House in November so that China could get rid of and get back at and retaliate against Trump? Maybe. Did they unleash a rapidly spreading virus that would disrupt the American and therefore the world's economy so that Donald J. Trump could not brag any longer about how he created the best stock market numbers in the history of the world, as we have all seen? while telling us that China would have been the #1 economy in the world if he had not stopped them. Let's find out if China would retaliate for such a couple of statements by Trump, and then the opinion by Adam Schiff, and the opinion and headlines by MSNBC, NBC, and the rest of the mainstream media. It's almost promoting and giving reasons to China to retaliate against Trump, which is the main goal of the Democrat Party, as we all know. I'm an independent, so whatever. Full disclosure, I voted for Trump, and I intended to vote for Trump in November. So there you have it. But I study stuff, and I study headlines, and I watch NBC, ABC, David Muir. I watch the news at 6:30 at night because I know what they're going to say. If our stock market is up today based on what Donald Trump has said concerning the coronavirus, then that night the news is always, oh, a lot more people have dropped dead from the coronavirus. Italy shut down the whole country. Schools are closing. So sporting events are all done. They're closed. Churches. I can't even believe the government is dictating to Christians, you can't have church if there's over 100 people in your congregation, which most of them have that. Now, people will argue with me and say, well, look, you got to opt on the side of, caution and all that. Okay, nonetheless, did they accomplish? That's my point. Did they accomplish what they set out to do? Disrupt the United States economy? Yes. Is there a deadly virus unleashed from China, Wuhan, where they make bioweapons in medicine, and where they control 70% of the medicines shipped all over the world? But there is light at the end of all this rainbow, this black tunnel, if you will, and I'll bring up what that will be in just a few moments. So, let's now look to a much brighter future, but before we get to the bright future, let's cover a tad more of the bad numbers that are happening around the globe. President Trump immediately shut down flights allowing Chinese travel into the United States. He was called a racist by Democrats and their cohorts in the mainstream media. Had he not shut down the flights immediately, upon learning that a deadly coronavirus was unleashed in Wuhan, China, then the U.S. record of people testing positive and dying might equal the numbers, for example, in Italy or other places. Northern Italy has a huge Chinese population, by the way, up in northern Italy. So people from China, including Americans who travel back to the U.S. from China, as thousands of business people do, brought the virus with them, and it was deemed undetectable for several days. So it was spreading from whoever came into contact with Chinese people over there in Wuhan and other provinces of China. In other countries where they did not do what President Trump did, they have had an unbelievable number of rapidly spreading virus and higher death rates. Iran, at last report, had over 11,000 cases and many deaths. Italy, as you all know, because you see the news too, fear, deaths spreading like wildfire. Italy has an astounding 24,000, I'm reading this now, 24,747 cases and 1,809 deaths as of today, Sunday, March 15th. Remember, they have a heavy Chinese population up in the northern part of Italy. And Italy also lets anybody and everybody into their country over their porous or non-existent borders. Spain and basically every other country has some sort of coronavirus outbreak. to the point that the World Health Organization, WHO, has deemed this virus as a pandemic, which simply means it's a worldwide epidemic. Okay, so that's all of the bad news. Let's wrap this portion of the video up and bring up the light at the end of this tunnel. So the ray of sunshine, as we wrap things up, that will come out of this coronavirus has many points of light, as President George Herbert Walker Bush once said. First, the stock market, shown here, had a high of 29,000 a month ago. Once the coronavirus spread, and 98% of the ones deemed to have the disease, by the way, survived it, but it is the spreading and the deaths worldwide and the shuttering of schools, cruise lines, air travel, sporting events, even churches, mosques, and synagogues that had the Dow hit a low of about 21,000 points. That's an 8,000 point spread, or what they call a bear market, or reversal of fortunes. But it's only temporary, it's only on paper. An 8,000 point drop means that 401ks and investors lost a full 25% or a quarter of their potential gains since Trump took office in 2016. Now, the media and the Democrats say that they are working in the best interest of the public at large, but some of them in the media say this outright: this is a great opportunity for Democrats, meaning that if the Trump economy fails, the voters will stampede to the polls in November and vote for either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. Maybe so. Okay, so here's what we know as I close out this entire video. Happily, right? But you do learn things here. The market may tank lower as the media pushes the numbers of people infected, mostly overseas, but keep in mind that 98% of them recover. And so far in the United States, nobody under the age of 50 has died from coronavirus. In fact, 26 people did die out of one nursing home up in Seattle, Washington. So of the number 40, whatever it is, 26 of them were from one place in Seattle. The warmer weather is upon us. I live in a region of the country down south where it's been 70 degrees for the past week. Although nobody will say it, I will. Warmer weather kills the flu. So it stands to reason that the flu is a virus, and so is the coronavirus. Warmer weather is coming. It's here. It's upon us. The travel on cruise ships and airlines is way down. Cruise ships are not moving. School buses are not moving for at least 2 more weeks at least. Churches are closed down with the exception of those having less than 100 people in the congregation. But the large churches, like the one I attend, are still operating. They're doing online services. My church, for example, and many of the other ones, Elevation Church and so forth, Joel Osteen's church, they do online church services. My church actually had over 2,700 attendees online at the very first service this morning, Sunday, the 15th of March, at the 8 o'clock service. So imagine, people are working from home now, so traffic counts are really down. This is good. This has caused a good thing to happen. The price of gas, as you can see right here to my right, is and has gone lower, so many thousands of vehicles are not on the road. That's why home heating oil, therefore, is also down. Gas where I live has dropped down to $1.99, as you can see right here behind me. In some states, people are telling me that their gasoline prices are in the $1.80 range. This hasn't happened for years. Because of the coronavirus, home mortgage interest rates are also very low, very low. You could borrow on the equity of your home right now and either pay off your high interest credit card rates without raising your mortgage, by the way, your mortgage payment, or like thousands of others, including yours truly, you can buy stocks now at prices so low it's almost like finding treasure. treasure that will grow very soon. And that is why the market fluctuates wildly right now. Trump had a coronavirus speech with all of the medical professionals and geniuses standing behind him, along with the business sector of the country. And they're all working together to keep the spread of this coronavirus low. Now, that happened on Friday the 13th at 3 p.m. I watched it. Between 3:30 and closing bell at 4 o'clock, the market soared straight up, as you can see in this chart behind me, to nearly a 2,000-point high. But the reason it goes up like that is people like me jump in there and they buy the bargains. So that's another ray of light that's happening as a result of this coronavirus. Of course, the media will continue telling us how bleak the situation is. In fact, tonight they're they're doing all kinds of shows on coronavirus. And the following morning, the market will tank again. So just get used to it. That's what's going to happen for a little while. A bright side that I did notice when they showed on the news, probably was a mistake of them to show it to me, but I noticed that people are, like in Italy, they're singing their national anthem. Some of them are out on their balconies playing instruments, but they're talking to one another from balcony to balcony, something that hasn't happened in years and years. I was at a local supermarket just the other day, Friday, in fact, and the lot was filled with cars. Nobody was panic-stricken. Nobody paid attention to the media-supported language that says, stay 3 feet away from each other. That's their rule. One lady, in fact, short-sleeve shirt, came right over to me, rubbed her arm right up against mine and said, I'm living my life like I always do. Once I got inside, there were hundreds and hundreds of customers. I'm talking huge crowds in the store. Bigger crowds than I've seen. No, they weren't in there panic buying. They weren't buying all toilet paper and stuff that some people are panicking over. But they were buying regular supplies in their wagon like they always do. But the difference this time is they were chatting with one another in the cashier lines, long lines. Chip, bip, bip, bip was great. I remarked how strange that seemed to me because they were acting neighborly, like the Italians do. So this virus, this flu-like virus, was doing what hardship, like the 9/11 incident, did. It seems to be uniting people. We're all in the same boat. A virus does not care if you are a Democrat, a Republican, Catholic, Protestant, Jew, rich, poor, black, brown, Asian, white, doesn't care. It will affect you if it's going to affect you. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So what I did see, though, that all of these varieties of different people I just mentioned were chatting up a storm. Kind of nice to see. So keep in mind, we will get past all of this. Our 401ks will grow like they always have. Take advantage of the low heating oil at home and gas prices at the pump and low interest mortgage rates on your home, or get a home equity line. Take advantage of this stuff. Hunker down. This storm, like every other storm that has happened in our country, will soon pass. They all do. So with that, I bid you adieu. Hunker down. Enjoy one another. Fist bump, whatever you do. Keep your distance, whatever. And some of you will no doubt, like some, very few, but some I've seen, I'm just getting a picture in my head, but it's like they're cowering in their basement in a fetal position out of fear. And intellectually and emotionally, it has to be affecting some people who can't deal with the reality of a storm. Here comes a tornado. What do? We hunker down. We get in the basement. We go to a tornado shelter or some other shelter. We get through every storm. The flu hits. It takes out 20 to 30,000 people a year. We don't shut down schools and all that for that, but because this is a fast-spreading coronavirus, COVID-19, they're taking the right precautions to do this. But again, it's temporary. Sporting events are suspended or postponed till the end of the month of March. What does that tell you? They all know that the warmer weather's coming. and this too will pass. And so November will come and you will do what you're going to do. I have a feeling I know what's going to happen, but because President Trump has been, in my opinion, humble as it might be, on top of this thing since day one when he stopped the Chinese travelers from coming into the United States. Okay, with that again, I say, take care, take caution, chat with one another. We're all Americans. See you later.